All right, guys, welcome back. We are watching Tsukimonogatari, Episode 1, Yotsugi Doll, Part 1. An Ononoki arc is very intriguing. That is very interesting. The name of this arc, the only thing that I know is ski means moon, like part of Ski's name, right? They brought that up specifically. I think it definitely means more than just that, though. I I believe it's one of those. There's definitely probably some other meanings to it here. I don't know if like Skimono means anything the same way like Nisemono, Bakemono did. It also makes me think of like Ononoki, like what she is. Like God, what was it? Like a Skumogami, something like that, right? It's like the TSUK is the same as like the part of that. So I don't know. Someone's gonna have to tell me like what this arc title actually means. Because like from my interpretation, I would just say it means like moon story or something, but like I don't know nearly enough Japanese to say if that's anywhere near accurate. Just because I know that like ski means moon, right? Um, but I don't know. I don't know. This is the first arc of the final season. At least that's what it's called in terms of like the structure of like the novels, right? Which is very interesting. I was thinking about how I wonder where we're going from here, because it seems like we have covered so much ground in all of the second season stuff, right? It feels like we have really resolved almost every conflict that was like set up back during like Bake and like Nisei, right? Like Hanakawa, Kanbaru, Nadeko, Kaiki stuff, Hajikuji. So much stuff has been like covered already. So I wonder where we're going from here, right? I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if we are going to be setting up new stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff for Araragi still. And I'm curious if that is where we're going. Although this is an Ononoki arc, so I wonder. God, I don't know what we would be doing with that. Yotsugi doll, huh? So yeah, I guess we are beginning. You can line and copy up with this if you want to. We are starting in 3, 2, 1. Is she? Sure. Right. Tsukimogami. Very much so. Her true nature. A monster. Yeah. It's beautiful. Oh man, Shinobu has really given her mind palace a makeover, huh? I like the new clothes. She pretends to be a human being. An interesting question. Interesting. It's like, oh god, different format on that. I did not catch that at all. Does she think of herself as human in any way? I don't really think she does. Right, right. I guess. Hmm. The question, of course, is what is a human, right? What does it mean to be human? Interesting. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Because they're like formed from beliefs, right? Yeah, yeah. Because it's like an oddity. I feel like an oddity couldn't take the shape of something that no one has a concept of. Right, right. They exist thanks to humans. Interesting. Right, right. That's why vampires are so powerful, right? Exactly. Yeah, yeah. If you don't have a concept of it, then it can't exist, right? Hmm. Oh. Yeah, what is it? It's like the tools used for 100 years or whatever. It's certainly very interesting in the modern world, right? Hmm. Right, right. God, this is so beautiful. No choice but to be convinced of. Right, right. Oh, amazing. God. Ooh. Oh my god, these shots. Yeah. God, this feels like such a like a turning point, you know? They lose their meaning. Yeah. Yeah, things haven't been going well from his perspective. God, I'm not catching any of this. It's a luxury. Oh. No use this late. Yeah, the end. Someday reach its limit. God, it feels like such a... He understood that there would be an ending. Will end and begin. God, that was such a good opening scene. What the hell? Ah, Ononoki opening. Beautiful. God, man, we're really gonna have to talk about all of that, huh? I love how colorful this is. I'll read the lyrics next time. Oh, I think I like this opening. I like her singing. It's very impressive doing it like in the Ononoki voice. Oh, beautiful. I really like this opening, actually. No, this one's great. I actually love this one. Okay, okay. Yotsugi Doll Part 1. Hmm. Man, they have really changed the presentation of a lot of stuff, huh? Haven't had one of these in a while. What is happening? An alarm clock. Okay. What do we mean by alarm clock? Is that the snake? What do we mean by alarm clock exactly, huh? What is an alarm clock? Something that wakes you up? What does that mean? Hmm. I think that... what is that face? No, it's interesting. Time is like running out. Interesting, interesting. Hmm. Yeah. I wonder. With thanks. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you have violent alarm clocks, I guess it's pretty rough. Interesting, interesting. The Alarm Sisters. God, this music. February 13th. Yeah, interesting. Oh, God. Is it not? Ooh, interesting. Hmm. Interesting. Normally he's studying all the time. Skihi, what are you reading? Right. She seems entirely unbothered. Sure, if you say so. Please don't. I did not, like, not even close to reading that, frankly. Hmm. Yeah, I think he would probably die, yeah. Hmm. Interesting. Oh, right, right. I don't call him that, please. God, that looks so good. What are you doing? Right. Interesting. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He seems so... He's in a weird mood, I feel like. Maybe that makes sense, though. From, like, what he was saying in the opening scene. Oh. Interesting. If you say so. Buried away. Why did you meow? She already had her own arc. Come on. She doesn't need any more. Whoa! Oh, God. Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, how exciting that would be. There will be one day where the Fire Sisters are no more, that's for sure. Which I think has some interesting implications, perhaps. Fascinated with her master. Oh, all of this stuff about time. So, yeah, so many clocks. Yeah, in due time. And how does he feel about that? Running out of time. Ooh. Time for them to wake up. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, what? Thank you. Thank you. She said she wanted it to burn her skin, so you're getting in? Like, I thought you made it so hot it was gonna burn your skin. I what are we doing? Sure. What are you doing then? Uh-huh. Literally. Very true. She is very scary. Oh god. So that's what you told her to do. Come on. It was so stuck in the wall. Oh god, he's dead. Okay. Oh, interesting. Our last bathing scene was a very momentous occasion, right? I literally no chance of me reading any of that. All right, so like, what is going on here? Yeah, it probably is. It's your fault, frankly. Literally, come on. It's both of your faults. It's supposed to be Karen's bath. Sure, sure, right, right. I don't say that. Like, what does that mean? I guess they're both, it's a game of chicken, I suppose. I mean, he has a vampire body, yeah. Very impressive. Not possible. Why does that mean it's not possible? Sure, sure. Oh god. Don't say that. God, what is with Aragi and doing that? Didn't he say something like that to Hachikuji forever ago, like in Nisei too? God, that sounds like Nisei music, doesn't it? Sure, sure. If the giant bathroom had more than one tiny chair too, it'd probably be helpful. I don't say it like that. Okay, okay. That was stupid. Oh, that's yeah, what's that called? I recognize that. I know that's a reference to. Hmm. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, it reminds me so much of the episode with Shinobu when she started talking to Araki again, right? I still don't really know what to make of that. It's just gonna be something stupid. What does that mean? I, if you say so, I guess. Like, what does that mean? Interesting. Oh, God, the music in this episode has been so interesting. Like, it's begging you to get something out of this, obviously. I really gotta think, you know? Her hair is ridiculous. Hurts if it gets in my eyes. Speaking of bangs, Nautico. Yeah, how does he feel about that whole situation, right? I mean, considering what Kaiki said to him, I wonder. Yeah, he views it as his fault. Yeah. Which is so, God, it's such a horrible way to take it. Hmm. Oh, it's so bad to view it that way. What was that? He was really zoned out. Hmm. I think it's important for him to hear things like that, probably. Ooh. Sure, sure. Ah, he doesn't think of it like that, though. Such obvious things. He can't, though. Hmm. Right, right. But yet, I'm sure he has conflicting feelings on it, of course. Oh, right, right. And there's no god on the shrine yet again, of course. God, this episode and the music felt so surreal. Good balance. Yeah. Ooh. I don't disagree. Ah, but he doesn't want to feel like that either, of course, right? Hmm. Interesting. How is it going? Only 1 month, huh? I mean, we're getting so close, like a full year having passed since like the beginning, you know? Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. I guess not. But what does it mean to be watching her? You know what I mean? Like, fundamental problem. It's okay. That is not the fundamental problem. No, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know. How narrow the tub is, huh? It's got to mean something. I don't say that. Skihi, Skihi was the one who saw last time. Come on, yeah. God, she's so stupid. Oh, okay, right. Okay. Oh, oh. Wait, wait. Okay. He's not in the mirror. He's not in the mirror. Yeah, yeah. Huh. Okay. Oh, God. Bad. We're so back, huh? Okay, interesting. Interesting. Okay, I should watch the ending. I should watch the ending. Oh, God, that was quite the episode. That was like a classic Araragi episode. You know what I mean? Like, man. Ooh, we're being built. That reminds me of Nisei. No Ononoki in this episode. Hmm. I like this song a lot. I'll read the lyrics next time. That's what is that? Oh, she entered battle mode. Piercing a heart. I like that ending a lot. That was good. That was good. Oh yeah, we don't have. Oh, man, we don't have the Fire Sisters anymore. Oh my god, that's actually so sad. Are we never gonna have them again? That's actually so sad. Oh my god. Oh, that's actually so sad. Anyway, we'll talk about the episode in the discussion. Okay, let's talk about the episode. This is man, we are so back. This is a classic Araragi episode right here. This is like a peak Araragi episode. Like, oh god, it feels so good to be back in Araragi's head with all this crazy shit going on. That like it's always so special to be in his head because everything just feels so much more like um symbolic and like thematically like heavy in a way whenever we're in his head. Everything is always behind these like layers of abstraction that I feel like is very unique to him, right? Um and this episode does that so well. There is so god this opening, I guess this opening monologue is different in a way. Because it feels like this is really Araragi. I feel like this is Araki speaking in a way that is very that's kind of different than I feel like he normally does. I feel like it is very clear and very it's obvious what it means, I suppose what he's saying here. And maybe that's not different. Maybe when we have like these Araki like inside of his head like monologues like this, maybe he normally is kind of more frank in a way like this. Like I'm thinking to like the end of like Nekomonogatari Kuro, right? I think that like internal monologue was similar in a way. So like what are we doing here? What are we talking about here? What is the point of everything that's going on? I guess what it seems like to me, which I hey, this is a good line to have accidentally paused on. This is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the end. The end of what? And like what is that? Right? Um I guess the way I'm taking it, as he says as well, this is the story about how the human named Aragi Kiyomi, a human named Aragi Kiyomi, about how myself, Aragi Kiyomi, will end and begin. That is this story. The end of Aragi Kiyomi. What does that mean? What that immediately makes me think of is, I mean, just his whole thing, all the way back from the beginning of how he views himself and like what that means, right? The idea that there is this version of himself that if he changes as a person at all, then he isn't himself anymore, right? Um, and I think what we're doing here at the end shows that very well. He can't see himself in the mirror anymore, right? It's part of being a vampire. It's obviously new, right? I don't know why his like vampirism is increasing other than like weird like meta stuff, right? Obviously oddities like by their nature are literally meta, but like you know what I mean. But like thematically, I think him looking in the mirror and not being able to see himself anymore, that makes so much sense, right? I guess the way I'm interpreting it is just He looks in the mirror. He has changed so much as a person over the course of the past like year, basically. At this point, we're back in February. I mean, Kizu was late March, early April, right? That was the beginning for Aragi in a lot of ways, right? And he's changed so much as a person over the course of that time that I think, especially with the way that he views himself and he views like the nature of change and that kind of thing, that him not being able to see himself in the mirror anymore makes so much sense. I think I've used that as like an analogy before about the way that he would view himself. I wasn't thinking about it in the sense of like vampires. Like of course that makes so much sense, right? Especially because vampirism for Araragi is like directly related to this idea of change, right? Like very much so, right? So yeah, him being like more of a vampire now in the sense of like he looks in the mirror and he can't see himself because of how much he has changed as a person, right? I guess more like literally if we think about his actual way he views humanity, it's like he has lost his humanity more so than ever, right? He literally can't see himself at all anymore, right? Like whatever he imagined Araragi Kiyomi himself to have been, he can't see it at all, you know. Um, and that makes me think: is there something specifically in this conversation with Skihi here, through the events of this episode, that triggered like him to think about it in this way? I guess in the sense of like thematically, the reason why this is happening now is something in Aragi has made him view himself in this way now, right? Something about the way his own self image, the way he views himself, has changed now so drastically to the point of I don't see myself anymore, right? He thinks of himself as not being there, his reflection being gone, you know. Um, and I wonder, is that a big, obviously, that is, of course, a consequence of just the culmination of all of the change that he has experienced throughout the entire story, right? Everything that's ever happened, right? Since Kizu, since Bake, I guess, you know. Um, but I wonder more specifically, right? The important thing here is him viewing himself in that way. Him, you know, there's some kind of like trigger point here. There's some kind of tipping point, I suppose, you know, as he calls it, I suppose, in the beginning monologue there, this is the beginning of the end, right? What is it that triggered that for him exactly? You know, why is it now that he views himself as beyond this point of not being able to see himself in the mirror anymore, right? I'm really not sure. I wonder. You know, we'll go through the episode. I wonder if specifically something in his conversation with Skihi is what triggers that, right? Skihi is saying all these things about like how he's taking too much responsibility on his shoulders, how he should be focusing more on studying for his exams, all of these things, you know. Um I wonder if it's just that conversation right there that is the tipping point and makes him view himself in this way, you know? Because like moments ago, weren't they both sitting in front of the mirror and Aragi wasn't thinking about it then, right? So I think the important part is Aragi's mentality. I guess we can't see in the mirror, right? But Aragi is sitting right in front of it right now, and he doesn't have this realization until the end of the episode. So something about something about his conversation with Skihi here has is at least like the it's the tipping point, right? It's the final straw in a way, you know, that makes him view himself in this way, right? And I guess like in universe too, it could perhaps come from a similar place, right? Like maybe because of his own self-image, because of the changing way that he views himself, that could literally make him into more of a vampire because of the way oddities work in universe, right? We talk about that, of course, at the beginning of this episode as well. We bring up yet again the true nature of oddities being because of people believing in them, because of people observing them as oddities, right? And if Araragi is observing himself as an oddity in some sense, and especially because of Araragi's like whole mindset about like what it means to be human and all of these things, right? Uh, I think it would make sense that could very easily like affect him as an oddity, as a vampire himself, right? Like his own perception of himself, you know. 'Cause obviously, I guess to get this out of the way, it's like this wouldn't be a big deal if he had just had like Shinobu drink his blood or something, so he's more of a vampire right now, right? Like it coming from someplace internally within him makes a lot of sense, right? That would make sense to me. Okay, let's go through the episode. This opening monologue is so good. So this is an Ononoki arc. We don't have any Ononoki in this episode other than this opening scene, so I suppose we did. Um, and this beginning is all about the nature of what Ononoki is as a oddity, I suppose, or as a person. It depends on what you think of as a person, right? To me, I guess my thing is I feel like Ononoki certainly qualifies as a person, right? As a human in a sense, you know? She is her own individual, she has her own personality, she has her own, all of these things about her. What's interesting, of course, is in the story, she is very outwardly, she seems so emotionless, and she seems to be so like under the control of so many people, right? Kaganui, Gaian, she is a literal creation by them, right? Um, which is very interesting. It brings me back to a thing that we never really had a conclusion on, which is how exactly does Araragi view Ononoki, right? What is she in his eyes, right? He's saying that she's a doll, that she isn't human, not a person, not a living thing. She isn't ordinary. That is Ononoki Yotsugi, a Tsukimogami that serves as a Shikigami. She looks like a cute little girl, eccentric in speech and actions. That she is an amusing and expressionless child. Her true nature is that of an aberration. Her true nature. A demon, a monster. She's that kind of being, right? So, something I brought up many times about the way Aragi views her is that she fits really well into his weird thing about humanity, right? She seems to be just purely just like a expressionless, emotionless like being that has like outwardly it seems like she has like no will of her own in a way, right? I think we know that that's wrong. It seems like she certainly does, Um like that insightful like conversation he had with her in the first episode of Kabuki. It certainly shows that she does have individuality about her. But I guess the important part is just how Aragi views her, right? I think she personifies his view of what it means to be a monster so well, what it means to like not have your humanity. And she also breaks it in a lot of ways because it's so clear that she does have her own humanity in a lot of senses, right? Um, so it's hard to like boil her down to like one specific thing that you want to say she is in Aragi's eyes, right? Of course, what he's repeating here is that she is a demon, she is a monster. He isn't viewing her like that, right? He isn't viewing her as a human. She doesn't fit in with human society well. And Shinobu has some things to say about this. This feels like a very complicated conversation they have here in a sense, right? I'm not really sure how to square it exactly. She was born from a human's corpse, so she's a doll, and she looks like a human. She pretends to be a human being. So what they're saying, what Shinobu says here, is she acts like a human, right? All the things I'm pointing out, right? Her individuality, all of these things about her that make her seem so human, so like a person, right? And yet she isn't. She still isn't. She is still an oddity. Um, which I almost wonder if the important part of that, of this distinction that's being pointed out here, is the fact that in the end these are just like labels that we're putting on her, right? That in a way the definition of whatever it means to even be a human being or to be a person is arbitrary. Aragi's definition of it, like, no differently, right? Like, of course. And that's especially obvious because I think most people who watch this will disagree with Aragi's mindset of like what it means to be a human in a sense, right? Um, and Ononoki again is almost that taken to an extreme. She seems like someone who is so influenced by these people who seemingly almost like control her in a way. That she is like she's just a little minion almost for Kaganui, it felt like. Hmm. Does that mean she's striving to be human, that she's doing her best to try to be human? Which is such an interesting thing for Araragi to say. This idea of striving to be human, trying to be human. That seems like something that is so personal for Araragi, right? It's just the thing is this idea of humanity is something that's so different for him and someone else, right? I guess in Ononoki's case, I guess my perception from what we've seen of her is it seems like she doesn't have that kind of conflict at all, right? I don't think she's really striving to be human. She's not trying to be human. It seems like she has an acceptance of what she is in a way, right? Um, like if we think back to the conversation that Ononoki and Aragi had at the start of Kabuki, it certainly seems like she has like questions and she has a desire to understand like why she is here and what she is, I suppose, right? God, what there was some really poignant lines in that conversation, right? Her wondering about her own creation and like why she exists, essentially, you know. Um, but I think that's different than her striving to be something that she isn't, right? Trying to be human, I suppose. According to Shinobu, that's not quite right. Apparently, the fact that she pretends to be human is proof that she isn't trying. That is a very interesting distinction, right? What is the difference between pretending to be human and trying to be human? I guess the difference there is like the mentality about it, right? Like if you're pretending to be human, then that in some way uh that shows that there is a knowledge on your part that you aren't human and that you are knowingly pretending to be one, right? Whereas if you're trying to be human, I guess still that shows that uh on your part you recognize yourself to not be human, but you are striving to be one, I suppose. It's like this recognition on Ononoki's part. I guess either way that she isn't human, whatever that means exactly. Um, but in one case she's simply pretending to be one, which there could be many purposes for that, I suppose, right? To fit in some way, I suppose. And in the other case she would be trying to be one which is which signifies like a goal or a desire to be human on her part, right? Which again is something that's so relevant to Araragi, right? In the end, it is merely the means to blend into human society. God, I can't read that one. That one's covered up. It is only a means to become compatible. So therefore not a means to assimilate. Yeah, sure. To assimilate, to blend into human society, not wanting to assimilate. That feels so relevant to Araragi, right? Because it's like that's what he has tried to avoid doing in a way, right? Like in Kizu, this idea of assimilating into like human society, he thought in a way that that would mean the end of him as a person, right? That would be the end of his humanity in a sense, right? Interesting. No matter how much you study a foreign language and learn to speak it fluently, it is just a means to communicate with those of another country. Yeah, you aren't becoming a member of that country in a sense, right? You aren't becoming a, you know, sure, I understand that. Yeah. It's not necessarily an effort to assimilate into the other culture. Sure. She was created in the likeness of humans, not to be a human being, nor to become a person. It was to be together with humans. Very interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure what the connotation behind that line is exactly. Not to be, but not to become, but to be together. To create an amicable relation with someone in another culture, you must understand that foreign culture and look into it. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. What does it mean for Ononoki to simply be together with humans and not to be one of them? Well, I guess I mean like quite literally, of course, that is like I suppose the meaning behind her creation in a way, right? Like in her creation, they weren't striving to create a human, right? They were trying to create an oddity, right? Um, hmm, interesting. In the first place, white aberrations in legend, or in other words, so-called metaphoric monsters, always take the shape of humans or animals, right? Well, it's because of the way that oddities work in my mind, right? Like, oddities are formed by the beliefs of people. So, of course, they have to take the form, they have to appear as something that people have a concept of, right? An oddity could never appear as something that no one has ever seen or thought of before, because it can only be the form of something that people believe in, something that, it is formed by those beliefs, right? They're unreal existences, yet they base their shape on things that really exist. Yeah. God, so I hope I haven't missed any of these. I had never thought about it. That is, well, if I can say so, perhaps the limitations of human imagination. Right, right. Humans can only speak about reality using words they know. Yeah. In the end, aberrations exist thanks to people. They exist because humans exist, which is so interesting in relation with like Aragi's whole thing, right? His not really like in his whole loss of humanity thing, but just in his vein of like living as himself, I suppose. I guess that's in the same vein, right? But this idea of accepting help from others and the nature of helping other people, right? That's kind of in the same vein of this, right? Existing thanks to other people around you, you know? I wonder if that's part of Aragi's like change right now, right? Like of course that's very vital to Araragi, right? This understanding that perhaps he has now, that he has changed so much as a person thanks to the people around him, right? That's kind of the heart of it in a way, right? That he only exists because of the people around him, and perhaps that is the direct conflict that makes him feel that he himself like doesn't exist in a sense anymore, that he can't see himself anymore, you know? That in a mirror, it's like metaphorically he only sees the change that has been brought on by people around him, right? That is thanks to the other people, you know? And that's this like unresolved conflict within him, you know? I think it's so I think it is meaningfully different than the humanity monster thing that was in a way dealt with all the way back in Nisei and Skihi Phoenix, you know? Like his acceptance of Skihi in a sense being this acceptance of himself and like this, you know, this monstrous version of himself or whatever. There's certainly it's hard to articulate, just there definitely is a difference between this idea of viewing himself as a monster having lost his humanity and him being able to accept the change brought on by other people, right? There's really are different things, right? It's like this the denial of any change at all versus the acceptance of the change that has actually been brought on him in a sense, right? This doesn't mean that aberrations are dependent on humans, though. It just means that if there's nobody to observe, nobody's being observed. Even I, who's dubbed a legendary vampire, would not be a vampire without that legend, the same as any other aberration, right? And that's why vampires as oddities are like so powerful, right? It's because vampires are like the big thing. Everyone knows what a vampire is, right? If you can't speak of the aberration, it isn't an aberration. A ghost story must be a story of the supernatural. Ah, I feel like there's so much more behind those lines that I'm not sure if I'm picking up on entirely, you know? Well, this is more that unpleasant guy in Hawaiian shirts values and way of thinking. God, what did she call him, like, back in Nisei? Like, the hated the Hawaiian shirt man or something? Something like that. What do you dig down? An aberration is just an attachment. God, and this is where the amazing Araragi monologue starts. Attachment, emotions. Can that perhaps be a feeling similar to sympathizing with a doll? Attachment and emotions, right? I feel like attachment is something that for Araragi is very important. If we think back all the way back to Kizu, when he was explaining to Hanakawa his reasoning for his whole humanity thing, right? And part of what he said, it wasn't only just like his losing his humanity thing. It was also like him he was afraid of attachment, right? He is afraid of attachment. What it means to be hurt by his attachment to others, you know? Can that perhaps be a feeling similar to sympathizing with a doll? For Skimogami, and what people consider what a waste ghost, which is like it's that whole weird like 100-year like tool spirit thing. I don't really know like the all of the implications at all behind all of that like lore stuff. One could say they're all created like this, right? It's I guess it's the idea of like the attachment, right? It's like the idea of a tool being used for 100 years and like the attachment formed to it through that, right? It's very similar to like oddity stuff in general, right? At least I think so. I think that's kind of my vague understanding of it. The way of thinking that gods can reside in all things, the belief that there's a myriad of gods, I hear that's something unique to Japan. However, it doesn't matter if it's living or not, sympathy for things other than humans exists all over the world. That is why ghost stories are told all over the world. Okay, okay. It's almost like Aragi is grappling with his idea of humanity itself in this moment, you know? Thinking about the idea of sympathy for things other than humans in a way, you know? God, it's all so it feels so complex, you know? Like they're told by humans. I can be convinced of that. And yeah, and that is an interesting like thought. The fact that humans in some sense are seeking, like, feeling sympathy for things other than humans, you know? I don't know, that's very interesting, right? I guess it comes like this idea of gods too, like seeing gods, a myriad of gods and all of these different things, you know? It's in the same vein of that, you know? It's like why do humans seek that kind of thing, you know? Sympathy for a doll, I suppose. Sympathy for things other than humans, you know? The story I have no choice but to be convinced of, after the numerous aberrations, as someone who's told stories of aberrations, about the vampire, the cat, the crab. God, I love all of these outfits. The Ononoki Hachikuji, God, that's amazing, amazing. The snail, the monkey, the snake, the bee, the phoenix. As the one who told those stories, I have no choice but to be convinced. What an insane shot right here. Like, look at this. God. All these, like, origami, like, cranes, I guess. Very unique art style. Very nice, very nice. Why is the chair wearing her boots? And now I'm once again trying to tell a story, one of a doll. So this whole conversation and Aragi's whole mood in this entire episode, it feels very weird, right? Like his attitude right now, he feels so like over it almost, you know? That really seems I mean, he kind of says that in this monologue, right? That he's like getting sick of it in a way, you know? It's like he's getting tired of all of this stuff almost, right? Um it's very interesting. It's like he's becoming disillusioned with like the idea of change itself, perhaps, right? Like again, I guess it comes back to like all of these stories that he's told us in a sense, right? It's kind of meta in a way. All of these stories that he's told us, that he's told, are obviously very closely linked to change within Araragi, of course, right? That's why he's telling them in a way. And now he's trying to tell another one of a doll. And it's like this line, you know, him saying that he's trying to tell it, you know? It's like what? It's like a struggle in some sense. It's difficult for him to explain it. I feel like I've talked too much. Yeah, urban legends, street gossip, secondhand information. When they're spoken too much, they lose their meaning. The hair-raising and awe-inspiring feelings both disappear. They lose their meaning. Like the stories he's told us will lose their meaning if he talks about them too much. What does he mean by that exactly, right? Like, hmm. I guess it gives me the vibe of him having like ruminated on all of this for so long and like considered everything that over the past year, how much it has done to him and how much he has changed, that it's like he's been disillusioned by it, I suppose. Thinking back to the darkness that started on the first day of the second term, and I guess the way like what he brings up here, the fact that recently, from his perspective, everything has been going wrong for so long, right? Like again, I it's interesting. This is our first time that we're in Aragi's head in like 6 months, right? Like the last time we've had an update, really, on Aragi's mental state by being inside his head was August, and now it's February, right? Every arc in between the arc in August that we saw last with Oni Monogatari and this one has been narrated by a different character, you know? Um, which that alone is very interesting. That really makes you think on like a meta sense, right? It's like you could say that like let's say in some sense it's like Aragi himself, right? Like I mean I'm not saying this is the case, but let's say it's Aragi himself who's almost in control of who the narrator is in a way, right? Obviously like narration is very like meta and is very much like a feature that is used in the story explicitly, right? Um, it's almost like Aragi himself hasn't wanted us to like be in his head for these 6 months because of how horrible everything has been this whole time from his perspective, right? Hajikuji disappeared. All the stuff with Nadeko happened, you know. Uh, it's like yeah, it's just all of these things have just not been going well for him, you know. It's like he hasn't wanted us to see it in a sense, you know. Sengoku Nadeko's incident with the snake god around New Year. I wonder how much longer things will go like this. I'm kind of fed up with it. It's kind of a scary attitude for him to have. It really is. It's very depressing. And he seems like depressed in a sense. I feel like this opening scene here in a second, um, when he is talking to his sisters and they're waking him up, they're trying to convince him to study, do all of this stuff. He just seems so over it, you know. He seems so disillusioned by all of this, you know, which is very interesting. To the aberrations, which I meet one after another, feeling that trickery is starting to no longer work, I also feel despair from it. Yeah, yeah. Trickery is starting to no longer work. Like in some way he feels like he's been tricking these things, I suppose. That feeling is a luxury. To think that it will continue forever is a luxury. The world doesn't work like that. I should have known that. No. Thinking of what if is no use this late. What does he mean by it's a luxury? It's a luxury for him to ruminate on all of these things and think about how miserable they were? That's very interesting. Every story is marked with the end at some point. God, and that is a. Yeah. Oh, wait, I think there's another one before this. Yeah. What is this? The rowdy days seem to continue for just a bit longer. The repetition of such words will someday reach its limits. That the rowdy days will someday end, right? Yeah, yeah. That he views. It's like he views everything he's been going through. Like, does he think he's already at the end, essentially? I suppose so, right? That's what he says. He says this is the beginning of the end. But what is the end for him, right? It's the end of himself. It's the end of Araragi Kiyomi, right? It's the end of him, like metaphorically, and also, hmm, hmm. The story of the doll that I'm going to tell is the story where I came to understand that there is an end. The story with the message that I understood, whether I liked it or not. That is why this is the beginning of the end. The story about how a human named Aragi Kiyomi, about how myself, Aragi Kiyomi, will end and begin. That is this story. Yeah, yeah, the human named Aragi Kiyomi, how he will end and begin. And it certainly seems like that, right? I can understand his perspective for now. I guess, like, what it has me thinking about is. Oh, and we talked about this before, forever ago. It's been a while. We haven't had Aragi narrated arcs in a while. Is like, from what perspective, from what point in time is Aragi narrating these things from, right? Um it's an interesting question because like he's so negative and so pessimistic. It felt like he just is not in a good mind state in like the in that opening monologue there, right? But it's obvious that he is talking about all of this from a point of view after which he already experienced all of these things, right? Like he's telling us this story from a perspective of having already experienced it, right? So, like, are we gonna catch up someday? And we're gonna be at the point from which he was narrating these stories from, and we're gonna work ahead from there more? Like, because my point, I guess, is if we never catch up, then that's really sad. And that means there's some undetermined point in the future where Aragi himself is still viewing his experiences and all of these things as having been this negative, which is really, I don't know. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know. I don't know. Yotsugi Doll Part One. We have Karen and Skihi waking him up. It has been a long time since we had one of these scenes. So they're waking him up. He needs to wake up, which is interesting. The idea of him needing to wake up. Wake up from what? Like metaphorically, right? Like wake up from what, right? Um I don't know. Wake up to, I guess from his perspective you could say wake up to like the reality of who he is now in a way. You could say the scene at the end looking in the mirror is him waking up in a sense, like seeing how different he is as a person now compared to before, and figuring out how he's going to engage with that, right? It's like obviously it's just the fact that him viewing himself as having changed so much, the fact that in the story it is revealed in this way, him not seeing himself in a mirror, that automatically shows that in some sense he is viewing it in a negative way, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. And we talk about alarm clocks, we talk about time, running out of time. Very like this snake with the clock, right? I think it makes sense with like Nautico. Nautico certainly gave them a time limit for graduation day, right? What's interesting is despite Nautico being gone, right? It's almost like the same moment of graduation day feels like it is still a countdown for Aragi in a way, right? Like his college entrance exams, um, doing all of this stuff. It feels like for Aragi in some sense. I imagine that he feels like he's running out of time. What it makes me think of is in Nisei when he's talking to Hajikuji. about like being an adult and what that means. And he has all these thoughts about like growing up and adulthood and all of this stuff, you know. It just makes me feel like Aragi has like this or like in Hana. In Hana, when he talks to Kambaru, um, he has it felt like he has a different perspective of like youth and like growing up and all of this stuff than he does now in terms of like being able to view his actions in a different light than the way he does now, right? Um but it seems like right now his mentality is it's like he's scared in a sense, right? I think graduation, his college entrance exams, all of that. I think the reason why he's not studying, the reason why he's just lying around doing nothing is I think the idea of this momentous occasion, him graduating, being done with high school, all of this represents like an unavoidable change within him almost, right? It marks socially like the transition into the next phase of his life in a way. And I wonder if he feels like he is like ready for that, or if he wants that, or you know, I totally understand that feeling for sure, right? So I think that is what this whole idea of running out of time, where that comes from, you know, is yeah, is he only has a month left in a sense, right? Is there another texting there? No, omitted. That's all it said. Okay. Alarm clocks. That this hatred may be linked through alarm clocks. Alarm clock. Alarm. Was there another one there? That's it. Just say omitted again. No, it just said omitted. Okay. Hmm. To the phrase that states you awaken someone's eyes, I feel crazy anger, and because of that, God, are there more text flashes here that I'm missing, or it just all just says omitted? What is it? What? I want to hear the rest. So we who were woken up would like to say this to the alarm clock, not with hatred, but with thanks, as he feels. Yeah, he has interesting feelings towards an alarm clock. I think Aragi has a lot of alarm clocks in a sense, you know, things trying to wake him up, I suppose. And it's interesting in this case that it is Skihi and Karen who were performing that duty, you know? Hmm. They are the Alarm Sisters. Very nice, very nice. February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. And Valentine's Day itself, I think, also probably has some significance to Aragi, right? Like, it is such a big thing between him and Shinjogahara, I'm sure. And he's in such a weird, bad, like, mood, such a weird attitude, it feels like. I wonder how he feels about even that, you know, about even facing Valentine's Day with Shinjogahara, you know? I don't know. Hmm. Only a month left until you take college entrance exams, right? Right. If you don't get it, you understand that you're better off dead. And he just kind of doesn't engage with any of this, frankly, right? Like they tell him to go study, he just kind of, yeah, he's just like, oh, I don't care. Like, I don't know, right? Yeah. Hmm. It is very interesting that it is Karen and Skihi that yet again we have Karen and Skihi here. I will especially keep it a secret whether I actually licked or when Karen pulled her foot back before I licked, to preserve the privacy of us siblings. Thank you, Araki. That is what I was truly worried about. It's interesting it's Karen and Skihi, because yet again, it's like Karen and Skihi are such like personally important characters to Araki, and like could imagined to be representative of like parts of him in a way, right? It's like his through his acceptance of Skihi, it was representative of like this acceptance of a part of himself as well. So it's interesting that in this episode where um it feels like that kind of theme, that kind of idea is brought up so much, it shows him bathing with Skihi for so long, right? It shows this very long scene of this extreme intimacy between them in a way. Which I almost wonder if like if one of the points of that is to show that this is different, that this isn't in any way a rejection of what he accepted back in Skihi Phoenix at the end of Skihi Phoenix. His acceptance of Skihi also being in part an acceptance of himself. And it makes sure to show that to us by showing this extreme closeness between these two, right? That his attitude towards her certainly hasn't changed, right? Because his attitude in relation to himself on that end hasn't changed either, right? So it's not that exactly that is the reason why he can't see himself in the mirror, right? It's rather than the rejection of any change at all. It's like this inability to accept the change that has happened within him, right? That's what makes much more sense to me, right? Um yeah, yeah. Hmm. Anyway, he has some. I don't know what to make of like 90% of what Karen and Aragi and Skihi talk about in this scene. I'm sure it means stuff, like for sure. Like I'm positive it does. Um, Especially Karen. I'm so much less sure about the way I view Karen. Obviously, she shares like Aragi's whole thing about justice, and she, I guess you could imagine that in some sense his acceptance of her like justice and her all of that stuff is also like interesting for him as a character too, like what happened in Karen B, right? Um, it just feels it's so much less clear to me than like what's up with Skihi. You know what I mean? Hmm. A bath so hot I'll get burned. That sounds really awesome. I guess I would want a hot bath if I went to go running in February when it's like snowing and freezing outside. To be fair, that kind of makes sense. God, this I love this animation of her like jumping out the window. It actually looks so good. She does some crazy shit, and he's doing a little dance. It's like it's like the dance from Platinum Disco, isn't it? Very cool. Very cool. For Karen's sake, I can take the effort this early in the morning to spare some time and whip up this old body to prepare her bath. Yeah, of course, of course. Why doesn't she join an athletic club or something? Something that he says here that I'm sure means something too is he talks about her like wasting her talent in some sense. Yeah, that her talent is being buried away. Which I wonder if it's like again, if we're viewing Karen is in some part being representative of like part of Araragi, does that say something about how he feels about himself, you know? That he has this extreme closeness with Skihi in this episode, and Karen just runs away, and he talks about how she's being buried and like her talent is being hidden. Does that say something about the way he views himself and like whatever part of him you want to say is representative like through Karen? Like the whole justice and all of that. Like perhaps, right? I guess I don't really know how to say it any more specifically than that though. Like I don't know, right? And Skihi meows for some reason. Thank you. Though she doesn't come close to me, she's a human that's really overflowing with talent. I guess. I suppose. Skihi doesn't want to talk about breaking up the Fire Sisters, of course. Seems like she doesn't feel any doubt in her actions. Anyone that tries to sever the bonds with the Fire Sisters can't be forgiven, not even you, Oni-chan. Which is very interesting, because I feel like if the Fire Sisters ever do break up, it would represent such a it would represent something for Aragi. That's for sure, right? And in Hana, it didn't seem like they're really broken up, right? Like Skihi says she worries about Karen going to high school. But like if we think about it, it's like Konbaru talked to Karen about Numachi and she was like, yeah, I'll talk to Skihi about it. So it doesn't really seem like they're like broken up in a sense. Said you'd invite me to the disbanding party filled with junior high girls. When did she say that? I, I don't remember. Did she say that? I feel like she must have. I feel like she must have. Hmm. All sorts of things will dazzle her. The environment will change too. And this is what makes me really think about like Araragi and his like trepidation about moving on from high school too, right? Is Skihi talks about her worries about Karen being changed by her new environment, right? By school, her high school being different than her middle school, all of this stuff, the environment being different. And Araki will be experiencing that too, right? Just obviously going from high school to like college or whatever, if he gets in, I guess. Which it's like, yeah, which is very, very interesting. Even then, I don't think Karen-chan will quit going to that dojo. She's fascinated with her master right now. Interesting. I don't know how my college entrance exam will go, and as he's thinking about this, all these clocks show up. Yeah. I don't know which way it will roll, but no matter which way it goes, in due time, my environment will change more than Karen's for sure. Yeah, yeah. Before that, for Karen and Skihi, my heart is the big brother who tells me I need to instill some logic into them. That's gonna be rough for you. Surprisingly enough, a thought like that isn't missing from my brain. It's high time that the Fire Sisters wake up. Interesting. What does that mean for them to wake up? What a great Araki face. So we begin this bath between Aragi and Skihi, which I guess I've already kind of worked myself into like a thematic explanation for in a way, right? It's so ridiculous, but I feel like it's showing his extreme closeness to Skihi in this sense serves that purpose of showing you that this isn't something about his rejection of her and like what she represents for him as well in a sense. Um, and I guess you could also just well, I don't know. Like I was gonna say, does it is it particularly like different than his attitude from her before? Or are we supposed to see that in any way it is like a further change of his attitude towards her since the end of Skihi Phoenix? I don't really know if I would go in that angle, just because I guess I don't know what you would say that would mean, right? Like he already accepted Skihi, and through that, this acceptance of this part of himself. So him being this physically close to her, bathing with her like this, what would you say that could mean like further for him, right? um like in some sense that he's accepting that side of himself too much and that he's throwing Karen out. I like maybe, right? I guess I don't really know what that would mean for him, right? um because I feel like if anything, if you view it in that way, if you view it in the sense of that he's accepting Skihi, and by that sense this part of himself too much, um that feels like it is too much in agreement with like the old Aragi mindset back in like Kizu, in a sense, you know. Um, because I guess my thing, of course, is I disagree with Aragi. Obviously, he's still himself, despite having been changed by others, right? Despite being changed by people around him and his environment, he's still Aragi. It's not the end of Aragi, you know. Um, so I mean, I guess you could say that it's purely meant to be locked within his perspective in a sense, and that this just shows like perhaps the way he himself is thinking of it. But then I feel like we're like mixing the meta levels too much, right? Like Aragi in universe doesn't view Skihi in that way, so then I don't want to view it from like an Aragi perspective in universe of why he would be bathing with Skihi. Like I hope that makes sense. I don't know. I literally can't say it any clearer than that. Hmm. But like no, but like in a sense they're both kind of like disrespecting Karen in a way by taking her bath from her, you know what I mean? So that kind of makes sense to me, right? I love the face she makes after throwing the shampoo thing at him. Where did she get these shampoo things from? She walked here from outside of the bathroom, right? She was taking all her clothes off. She walks into the bathroom holding these shampoo things. Where did she get them from if she wasn't already in the bathroom? It's a crazy plot hole. It's ruined. So they have to bathe together, unfortunately. No other choice, no other choice. What it reminds me of, obviously, immediately, is the bath with Shinobu back in Nisei, of course, right? Why is this? How did it end up like this? Don't you want to go? Then does oh, this is just kind of what she says to him. Yeah, 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 yeah. Or you all talk, I guess you're all bark and no bite. You didn't have the guts to take a bath with me in reality, did you, you chicken girl? Like, what are you? Don't call her a chicken. She's a phoenix. It is not a bath as spacious as the anime version, or rather, it is an average-sized bath with the average time. Yeah, exactly. Right? People have said that it's like obviously it's like in the books you don't it doesn't describe the bath as being this giant, insane, crazy space. I know it's like anime only, right? Of course. So he has this conversation with Skihi. Half of it is just like I this, but it's I God, is there some kind of there probably has to be some kind of meaning behind this, behind like this teasing between them, of like this game of chicken they're playing about both not wanting to be in the bath together, obviously. Um, but I don't really know what to make of it exactly. I don't really know what to say. I feel like there gotta be something there though, you know? I don't know. I don't know. I like how it gives us all these like little reminders about Aragi's vampirism in this episode too. I didn't really think about it that deeply in the moment before the end, but like it shows us his crazy abs because he's a vampire body. It shows us him like crushing Skihi's skull as he washes her hair. It's like these little reminders that it's about like, oh yeah, he's a vampire, right? And then at the end it shows him not in the mirror anymore. I like that's like that's cool. Well done. Aragi loves to I know everything about those lumps of meat you have on your chest. Didn't he say something just like this to Hachikuji, like a Nisei? Something about calling her body like a slab of meat or something? Why does he do that? It's like, God. Both have way too much hair, so it's inefficient to wash our hair side by side like this. It's not economical. Hmm. Sometimes she says things that are just right. Sure. So they take turns washing each other's hair. This wa was short for what, to use an expression of surprise, but at the same time it was short for wow, I see as well. Wow, what a great phrase, huh? Hmm. And she washes his body. Very, I don't know. It feels like something that is so that has to mean something thematically, right? Like he's washing, right? He's being washed. Hmm. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like there's so much meaning you can take from the idea of like bathing and cleaning yourself, in a story, that it's hard to say what exactly you could say it relates to, like in Aragi's head, right? Skihi thought of a hilarious joke. I don't know what it means. The title Metropolitan Ordinance. I don't know. She thinks of a better one though. She sort of said Sky Tree. Someone's got to explain those ones to me. But in that case, it might be better for Karen to do so. Why? I don't know. I don't know. It's beyond me. It's beyond me. It's impossible. So we start talking about some actual things in a second. Her hair is indeed ridiculous. I don't know if you're wishing for something. I don't know what that means exactly. So I don't know. If I don't cut my if I don't cut my hair well, my bangs go prickle prickle in my eyes and it hurts. No matter how much love and care I give to my hair, it hurts if it gets in my eyes. Interesting. What's interesting about hair is growing hair is also a representation of like time passing, of course, right? Obviously, Skihi's insane and her hair grows 50 feet a second, so like it's a little bit different for her. But it is interesting how in this episode it's like we've thought so much about the concept of time passing and what that means for Aragi, and like we're talking about hair as well. Skihi has very long hair, right? It's very interesting. It's almost like what you could say because of her hair growing so fast that she's in a sense like immune, maybe, to like this the same line of thought that Aragi's going down, this idea of his trepidation about the passing of time. I don't know. I don't know. It means something. I don't get it too well. Sure. Speaking of bangs, Naruko-chan was released from the hospital. And Aragi can't say much about it, right, in his head. All I could say was, I see. I didn't have the right to say anything else. But I'm glad she was released from the hospital, right? He thinks, God, like what Kaiki said to him, it's really gonna be rough for him to get past that. He really views it as his responsibility to do something for her. So the idea that in some sense that it would be better for him to not do something for her, for him to be separated from her, is like unimaginable to him. He views it as like a personal failure on his part for sure. He blames himself entirely. Especially someone like Kaiki, who has such a negative view of being the one to actually help her. Like yet again, that just layers onto it, right? I can never show my face to Sengoku again. I can still say I'm glad. Somehow I can think like that. Interesting. And he's crushing her skull. Oni-chan, though I think you probably don't want me to say this to you. It's probably because you don't want me to say it that I'll say it. He needs to hear some things like that, of course. Putting a lot of weight onto your shoulders, too much. Thing that Naruko-chan couldn't be helped, but you can't carry it on your shoulders. Hmm. She says such obvious things, but especially Skihi, about Sengoku, about how she was missing for the past few months. It's not something she knows the minute details of. It's like he wants to say she's wrong, right? That because she doesn't know the details of it, then like she would have a different perspective on it if she only knew. And I wonder if this moment, if this right here, her pointing out how much Aragi is shouldering for other people, which makes me again think back to Kizu when he was talking to Hanakawa about his whole humanity thing. And it's like this was part of the reason why he said he didn't want friends, right? Is his desire to help other people is so strong that he lets himself get hurt for others like this. And it's like this recognition from Skihi that he's been doing that so much, that he's been shouldering so much for other people. Is that what makes him like lose sight of himself in this way? Like, right? Like this direct confrontation, this recognition of that in a sense, you know? Maybe, because that's the problem about Aragi. It's like these conflicting things that are inseparable, right? His desire to help others, which originally came from like this place of lack of self esteem and all of this belief that others must be so more important than himself, alongside his desire to not be connected to others, to not let others change him. You know, it's like these two inseparable things about his mindsets that also conflict in this way, that I feel like them manifesting in this sense, like in his head of him not seeing himself at all anymore, of viewing himself as just being gone. I think that makes a lot of sense. Hmm. Now that Naruto Sengoku is descended from the mountain and her disappearance has been solved. That's a good thing, a wonderful thing. However, that good, wonderful thing has once again created an extremely unstable area in this town, or so I've been told. Yeah, the shrine, right? There's no god on the shrine anymore. Yeah, yeah. And without solving that issue, or at least doing something about it, if it can't be solved, trouble will keep on coming to this town. I have to say, I feel regret at the thought of leaving this place, even if you leave my sisters out of the equation, right? That's part of this whole ticking time bomb thing too in his head, you know? Like that's another thing that like college will mean, I suppose. Even if everything doesn't turn out fine, I need to make sure there's a good balance. Ah, what does balance mean? Wasn't his role at first. Yeah, wasn't your role at all. You carry too much weight on your shoulders. It's not like you can solve anything and everything. You can toss some stuff aside, leave stuff alone, and know your place in the world. It's just that's like unthinkable for him, right? Like he can't imagine tossing things aside, leaving stuff alone, you know? And I don't know if I agree fully with Skihi either. I don't know if, well, I guess it's wrong to try and accept impossible responsibility, of course, right? Like that makes sense to me. I don't know. I don't know. I'm conflicted on it. You can live within your means and leave some stuff for others. I don't think that's that bad. It's just again, it's just for Aragi that's something that's unimaginable, you know? Hmm. How's your studying for the college entrance exams really going? Think you can get ahead with one more month? Somehow I'll figure something out. He just gives a non-answer. Yeah, like that's what I had to answer. Even if it wasn't, I had to answer that way. Such a sad self-hypnosis. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. I wonder, does he view what does he think will happen? Like he has this trepidation about the college entrance exams. Does he think he won't be able to do it, you know? Does he view himself, I wonder, like in some sense, does he view himself like, because if this was still the Araragi from like the beginning of Bake, it was Senjo Gahara that made him like start studying and was like this motivation for him, you know. Um I wonder if he views himself as still like not being a person who will be able to pass the college entrance exams, you know? Is that part of it too, I wonder? Hmm. Is this really the time for you to be washing your little sister's body? Is it ever the time? Is it ever the time? It's maybe. I wouldn't know, I suppose. Hmm. I'm telling you, the narrowness of the tub and the cramped washing space, it definitely means something. Again, I just don't know what. I just don't know what, sadly. I want to say in a meta sense, it's like related to the way that Araragi like externalizes these parts of himself almost through Skihi and Karen, you know? And it's almost like if that wasn't the reality, then it wouldn't be like so cramped, you know? If Araragi didn't view these parts of himself as these separate, almost like conflicting things, right? Like this humanity side of him and this monster side of him, then things wouldn't be like cramped in that way. But that's a little bit much. I don't know. Godski, he's so stupid. And here's the moment where yeah. It's a very natural phenomenon, therefore something very natural. However, there's something unnatural as well, something supernatural. Araragi Kiyomi, or me, was not present in the mirror's image. The mirror wasn't showing me, as if I were an immortal aberration, a vampire. God, we're so back. I love it. I love it so much. What a classic thing. I'm very excited to see how we will engage with this further. It's awesome for this to happen in the first episode. Man, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. Anyway, I think I think that's about it. I think we talked about everything. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Anything else? Don't believe so. I liked the ending. I like the ending and the opening a lot. They're both very cool. Very cool. I gotta like read the lyrics next time. I only like watched them, but we'll read the lyrics next time. Maybe they're awesome. Immediately this lyric. We can never go back to those days. That makes me think, huh? But either way, that's it. So please, if you enjoy my videos, leave a comment, tell me what you think, subscribe, please, and I will see you in the next one.